For thousands of years, Pythagoras has been remembered as the father of mathematics. But hidden behind the familiar tales of triangles and numbers lies a deeper, forbidden legacy, one that speaks to the very fabric of reality itself. Pythagoras believed that the universe was not just made of matter, but of vibration, harmony, and spirit. His secret teachings were whispered through mystery schools and banned by those in power. Today, we are finally rediscovering what he knew. That sound, frequency, and vibration are the keys to spiritual healing and unlocking higher consciousness. This is the forgotten wisdom every spiritual seeker must know. When most people hear the name Pythagoras, they immediately think of the Pythagorean theorem, a mathematical formula etched into every schoolchild's mind. But to reduce Pythagoras to a mere mathematician is to miss the vast and mysterious depth of who he truly was. Behind the numbers and equations was a man who was less a scientist in the modern sense and more a sage, a seeker of divine truth, a master of hidden realities, and a pioneer in the spiritual science of vibration, healing, and cosmic harmony. Pythagoras lived during a time when science, philosophy, and spirituality were not separate domains, but a single unified quest to understand existence. Born around 570 BC on the island of Samos, he traveled extensively through Egypt, Babylon, and perhaps even farther into the east. Everywhere he went, he sought the sacred knowledge hidden in temples, mystery schools, and ancient traditions. It is said that he spent decades studying with priests and magi, learning the secrets of numbers, the structure of the cosmos, and the invisible laws that govern life itself. What Pythagoras discovered was so profound that when he returned to Greece, he refused to share it with the public. Instead, he founded a secret society, part brotherhood, part spiritual school, where only the most disciplined and trustworthy students could be initiated into the deeper mysteries. To even enter the outer circle of his school, candidates had to undergo years of silence, self-discipline, and purification. They were taught that the soul was immortal, that it could be purified through wisdom and right living, and that everything, every object, every being, every thought, had a numerical essence vibrating in harmony with the rest of the universe. To Pythagoras, numbers were not abstract human inventions. They were the sacred language of God, the underlying reality from which all things emerged. The number 1 represented unity, the source of all things. 2 was duality, the tension between opposites. 3 symbolized harmony and balance, while 4 represented order and foundation. Every number carried a deep metaphysical meaning, and understanding these meanings was, in his eyes, a path to spiritual enlightenment. But even numbers themselves were only the surface. Pythagoras taught that beneath the material world, all of existence was constructed from vibration, from invisible pulses of energy that organized themselves into matter, form, life. Sound, he believed, was a direct expression of this hidden vibrational reality. Music, when properly understood, was not merely entertainment. It was a form of medicine for the soul, a way to align oneself with the divine order of the cosmos. This is why his brotherhood practiced rigorous exercises in listening to and creating music, chanting, and living according to patterns of sacred proportion. Pythagoras taught that certain scales and intervals had the power to bring the human spirit into alignment with the greater harmony of the universe. Disharmony, whether in music, the body, or society, was a symptom of a deeper spiritual imbalance. Because of the radical nature of these teachings, Pythagoras and his followers faced suspicion and even hostility from the broader public. The masses were not ready, he believed, to receive the true nature of reality, a nature that suggested that human beings had the power to transform themselves through knowledge, discipline, and vibrational attunement. Knowledge was not simply for practical benefit, it was sacred. It was the key to purifying the soul and ascending to higher states of consciousness. Thus, much of what Pythagoras taught was hidden behind layers of symbolism, myth, and secret ritual. Very little was written down. His brotherhood operated largely by oral transmission, ensuring that only the worthy, those willing to endure hardship, sacrifice, and rigorous training, could inherit the sacred wisdom. It is because of this secrecy that so much of Pythagoras's deepest teachings have been lost, fragmented, or misunderstood over time. Yet traces remain, hints and echoes in the writings of his followers and later philosophers. The idea that the world is built on vibration, that sound can heal, that numbers and sacred geometry shape all of creation. These ideas, once forbidden and reserved for the initiated few, are now resurfacing. Modern science, with its study of frequencies, quantum fields, and the healing power of sound, is beginning to validate what Pythagoras intuited thousands of years ago. To understand Pythagoras is to understand that mathematics, music, philosophy, and spirituality are not separate disciplines, but different faces of the same eternal truth. That everything is connected through patterns of resonance, and that by attuning ourselves to these patterns, we can rise beyond the chaos of ordinary life and step into the higher harmonies of existence. In rediscovering the forbidden teachings of Pythagoras, we are not merely studying history. We are awakening to a truth that was never truly lost, only hidden, waiting for those with eyes to see and ears to hear. One of the most profound and beautiful teachings that emerged from the hidden knowledge of Pythagoras was the concept of the music of the spheres. To the modern mind, this might sound poetic or even mythical, but to Pythagoras and his inner circle, it was a literal, living reality, a fundamental law of the universe, operating whether humanity understood it or not. According to Pythagoras, the stars and planets were not silent objects drifting in space. Instead, they moved according to mathematical equations and sacred proportions, and their motion through the heavens produced a constant, harmonious sound. This sound, this cosmic symphony, was not audible to human ears because it had always been present from the moment of our birth. It was like the background music of existence itself, so pervasive, so continuous, that it faded into the unnoticed fabric of our awareness. Imagine for a moment the planets and stars not as cold, distant rocks, but as vast tuning forks vibrating through the void. Each celestial body, by virtue of its size, mass, and motion, emitted its own specific frequency, its own musical note. The distances between them, their orbits, the forces they exerted upon one another, all of it formed a grand cosmic chord, a perfect harmony echoing across the infinite. This was the music of the spheres, an endless, divine concert performed by the universe itself. But the significance of this music was not limited to the heavens alone. Pythagoras taught that the same principles governing the celestial symphony also operated within the human soul. Just as the planets must maintain their precise courses to preserve the cosmic harmony, so too must the different parts of the human being, mind, body, and spirit, remain in balance with one another. If even one part fell out of tune, disharmony, illness, and suffering would result. Thus, understanding the music of the spheres was not just an intellectual exercise, it was a path to spiritual mastery. Those who could learn to hear, to feel, and to align themselves with this cosmic music could attain inner peace, wisdom, and union with the divine. They could live in a state of harmony with the greater order of existence, becoming, in a sense, musicians playing in concert with the universe itself. The implications were staggering. If all of reality was based on vibration and resonance, then everything was connected through a vast web of energy and sound. Human emotions, thoughts, health, and destiny were not isolated phenomena, but were linked to the vibrational structure of the cosmos. To heal oneself, To elevate one's consciousness was to tune oneself, like an instrument, to the sacred frequencies that animated all of creation. This is why Pythagoras placed such importance on music in his school. Music was not mere entertainment, it was a sacred science, a tool for spiritual purification. Certain melodies and rhythms were believed to have specific effects on the soul. Some could calm anger, others could inspire courage, others could cleanse sorrow. By playing particular instruments or chanting particular tones, Pythagoras and his students sought to recreate the divine harmonies within their own bodies and minds. It was also believed that the right music could open gateways between dimensions of consciousness. When properly attuned, the soul could ascend to higher realms, just as the planets revolved in higher spheres beyond the material world. Music became a bridge between the mortal and the immortal, between the seen and the unseen. And yet, this knowledge was deemed too powerful, too dangerous, to be shared openly. In an age where ignorance, superstition, and the hunger for control dominated human affairs, Pythagoras understood that those who misused the science of vibration could wreak unimaginable havoc. After all, if sound could heal and elevate the soul, could it not also be twisted to manipulate, to enslave, to destroy? Thus, the true nature of the music of the spheres was carefully guarded, passed only to those who had proven themselves worthy through years of training and purification. Today, science is beginning to catch glimpses of what Pythagoras knew. The study of cymatics, how sound creates patterns in matter, reveals that vibration organizes chaos into beautiful, complex forms. Quantum physics hints that at the most fundamental level, particles are not solid objects, but vibrating strings of energy. In every discovery, we move closer to the realization that we live not in a dead mechanical universe, but in a living symphony of frequencies. The music of the spheres continues to play. It hums through our blood, through the air we breathe, through the earth beneath our feet, and the stars above our heads. Though most cannot hear it consciously, its influence shapes our lives in ways we barely understand. But for those who seek, who listen with the inner ear, there is still a chance to remember, to feel the vibration that connects all things, to rediscover the song of existence, and to attune themselves once more to the sacred music that binds the heavens and the soul in perfect, eternal harmony. In the ancient world, healing was not seen merely as a physical process. To the great minds like Pythagoras, true healing required an understanding of the invisible forces that shaped both body and spirit. Among the most powerful of these forces was vibration, the unseen currents of sound and frequency that course through every living thing. Pythagoras taught that just as the universe was built upon sacred harmonies, so too was the human being a symphony of vibrations, easily thrown into discord by emotional, physical, or spiritual imbalance. While today we often think of medicine as pills and procedures, Pythagoras saw music and sound as the most direct and natural form of healing. He believed that every part of the body resonated with its own unique frequency, and when disease struck, it was a sign that the body's natural music had fallen out of tune. Healing, therefore, was not about fighting disease in a brutal battle, but about gently restoring the body's lost harmony through the careful application of sound. In his secret school, Pythagoras and his followers used specific musical scales, tones, and rhythms as instruments of purification. Different modes, particular arrangements of musical notes, were prescribed for different ailments of the body and soul. When someone was filled with rage, a soothing and slow melody would be played to draw out the excess fire. When sadness weighed heavily on the heart, an uplifting and invigorating rhythm could disperse the clouds of grief and invite the spirit to rise again. Nightly, the Pythagoreans would gather to listen to specially composed music that was meant to cleanse their minds from the chaos of the day. They believed that dreams were profoundly influenced by the vibrational state of the mind, and by entering sleep in a state of harmonic balance, they could access higher, more enlightening realms of the unconscious. Upon waking, music would again be used, this time to prepare the spirit for the trials and duties of the day ahead, tuning the soul like a musician tunes an instrument before a great performance. The concept of vibrational healing extended beyond simple melodies. Pythagoras experimented with the use of specific instruments, believing that the sound of the lyre, the flute, and even the human voice could influence the body's energetic field. Certain frequencies were thought to stimulate the organs, enhance blood flow, or clear energetic blockages that modern medicine would much later attempt to describe through concepts like meridians and chakras. Even the spaces in which healing took place were carefully designed, according to principles of sacred geometry and acoustic perfection. Healing temples were constructed to amplify specific resonances, creating an environment where every sound contributed to the restoration of balance. Silence, too, was treated as a sacred tool. The space between sounds, the stillness that allowed the vibrational field to settle and harmonize without interference. Beyond physical healing, Pythagoras saw vibrational therapy as essential for the purification of the soul. He believed that the soul, like the body, could accumulate toxins in the form of negative emotions, chaotic thoughts, and spiritual confusion. These spiritual blockages could not be cut out with a surgeon's knife or burned away with herbs. They had to be transformed through resonance, retuned to the higher frequencies of truth, beauty, and divine order. This was no mere superstition. Pythagoras understood that emotion itself is vibration, that thought itself has frequency. A mind consumed by fear vibrates very differently from one elevated by love or illuminated by wisdom. In teaching his students to master the vibrational qualities of their inner worlds, he was offering them a profound system of self-healing, one that reached beyond the limits of the physical into the very architecture of consciousness. The ancient rituals involved more than passive listening. Some ceremonies required participants to chant sacred sounds, allowing the vibrations to emanate from their own bodies, merging with the music around them. Others involved rhythmic movements, synchronized with specific frequencies to awaken dormant energies within the body. Everything was part of a single unified act, the restoration of divine harmony between the inner and outer worlds. In the modern age, we are only beginning to rediscover the power that Pythagoras so carefully guarded. Sound healing practices such as binaural beats, solfeggio frequencies, and therapeutic sound baths are echoes of his ancient wisdom. Even cutting-edge medical research now acknowledges the influence of vibrational therapies on the nervous system, brain waves, and cellular health. What Pythagoras knew intuitively thousands of years ago, that vibration is the bridge between the material and the spiritual, is being verified in laboratories across the world. Yet the greatest secret remains. True vibrational healing is not simply about manipulating external sounds. It is about tuning the entire being to the sacred music that underlies creation itself. It is about recognizing that you, yourself, are an instrument of divine energy, and that through conscious practice, you can bring yourself back into alignment with the universal symphony. In returning to the forgotten art of vibrational healing, we do more than heal the body. We heal the soul. We heal our connection to the cosmos. We remember that we are not isolated fragments of life, but vital notes in an eternal song. A song that never ends. A song that calls us always to return, to harmonize, to awaken. The deeper one journeys into the forbidden teachings of Pythagoras, the more it becomes clear that his understanding of the universe was built upon an astonishingly unified vision. For Pythagoras, sound, vibration, and number were not isolated phenomena. They were intertwined with the very patterns that shaped existence itself. Central to this vision was the sacred science of geometry. a mystical language that revealed how the unseen harmonies of the cosmos were crystallized into form. Sacred geometry, as taught by Pythagoras, was far more than an intellectual exercise in drawing shapes. It was the direct study of the divine architecture that governed the universe. Shapes like the triangle, square, pentagon, and dodecahedron were not random inventions of the human mind. They were universal patterns, cosmic blueprints, embedded in all of nature, from the structure of crystals and flowers to the proportions of the human body and the design of the stars. Pythagoras believed that by understanding these forms, one could understand the soul itself. Each geometric figure carried within it a vibration, a frequency that resonated with particular qualities of being. The triangle, with its three sides, represented harmony and the balance of opposites. It was the simplest shape that could enclose space, symbolizing unity arising from diversity. The square, stable and grounded, embodied the material world, the realm of earth and manifestation. The pentagon, with its connection to the golden ratio, was seen as the key to life and regeneration, found in the spirals of seashells and the branching of trees. These shapes were not merely studied intellectually, they were contemplated in deep meditation. The initiates of Pythagoras' school would meditate upon these sacred forms, visualizing them with such clarity that they could feel the resonance within their own being. By attuning to the geometric patterns, they believed they could align their inner structure, their soul, with the divine order of the universe. Sacred geometry was also woven into the very spaces where they lived, learned, and prayed. Temples were constructed with precise ratios and alignments so that the spaces themselves would resonate at specific frequencies, creating an environment that naturally elevated the mind and spirit. Every proportion, every angle, was a prayer in stone, an attempt to anchor the heavenly harmonies into the material world. Even musical scales were derived from geometric principles. The octave, the fifth, the fourth. These musical intervals corresponded to specific ratios that could be expressed geometrically. Thus, music and geometry were two faces of the same truth, the manifestation of harmony, order, and beauty. When one played music tuned to these sacred ratios, it was not simply an aesthetic experience. It was an act of aligning oneself with the deepest structures of creation. Pythagoras taught that the soul itself was a geometric construct, a living pattern of vibrational energy, composed of sacred proportions. To live out of harmony with these proportions was to fall into spiritual disease. To realign with them was to find healing, enlightenment, and ultimately, liberation from the cycles of suffering and rebirth. The understanding of sacred geometry extended even to the cycles of life and death. The circle, representing eternity and the infinite, symbolized the soul's journey through countless incarnations. The spiral, ever widening, represented growth, evolution, and the expansion of consciousness. By studying these forms, by contemplating their hidden meanings, Pythagoras' students were able to glimpse the grand design of existence, a design in which nothing was accidental, and everything had its place within the cosmic order. The forbidden aspect of these teachings lay not just in their depth, but in their power. Those who mastered sacred geometry and understood how form, vibration, and consciousness interacted could, in theory, shape reality itself. They could build temples that healed sickness, compose music that awakened dormant faculties of the soul, and even manipulate the flow of energies in ways that would seem miraculous to the uninitiated. This power was dangerous in the wrong hands, and so Pythagoras guarded it with extreme secrecy, revealing it only to those who had proven their purity of heart and intent. Today, we still see echoes of sacred geometry in the great cathedrals, mosques, and temples of the world, in the mandalas of the East, and in the intricate designs of ancient civilizations. But the true, living knowledge, The understanding that these patterns are not just beautiful, but transformational, remains hidden to most. To return to the wisdom of sacred geometry is to recognize that we are participants in a divine architecture. Every thought we think, every emotion we feel, every act we commit shapes the pattern of our soul, adding to or detracting from its harmony. Through conscious living, through mindful attunement to the sacred proportions, we can reshape ourselves into instruments of cosmic beauty. In contemplating the triangle, the circle, the golden ratio, we are not merely studying mathematics. We are remembering the original song of creation, the perfect vibrating pattern that gave birth to stars, to flowers, to human hearts. And in aligning ourselves with that pattern, we rediscover our true nature, beings of light, order, and infinite resonance. Pythagoras did not seek to dominate the universe with this knowledge. He sought to become one with it. And so must we, if we are to truly awaken to the forbidden wisdom that still sings within the heart of creation, waiting for those who will listen, who will see, and who will remember. The forbidden teachings of Pythagoras are not relics meant only for the scholars of ancient times. They are living truths, waiting patiently for those who dare to awaken. In an age of noise, distraction, and spiritual confusion, these teachings offer a profound map back to wholeness, a way to remember who and what we truly are beneath the surface of our hurried, fragmented lives. The path is not found in blind belief or mechanical ritual, but in conscious, deliberate practice, in awakening through vibration, in tuning the soul once again to the sacred harmonies of existence. The journey begins with the simple, radical act of listening, not with the ears alone, but with the whole being. Pythagoras taught that to perceive the music of the spheres, one must cultivate an inner silence so profound that it becomes possible to feel the universe vibrating through the marrow of one's bones. This is not metaphor. It is an experience, subtle yet undeniable, that arises when the mind is stilled, the emotions purified, and the heart opened without resistance. Through meditation, through sacred music, through the focused contemplation of natural beauty, the soul can begin to hear the faint, eternal symphony that has never ceased to play. Daily life itself can become an instrument of attunement. Each action, each word, each thought carries a vibrational signature. When we act in harmony with truth, with compassion, with wisdom, we strengthen the resonance of our soul. When we indulge in anger, fear, greed, or deceit, we fall into dissonance, and the sacred music within us becomes distorted. Awakening through vibration demands a radical honesty with oneself, an ongoing commitment to live in such a way that the soul's song becomes ever more clear, pure, and aligned with the deeper harmonies of the cosmos. One powerful practice inspired by Pythagoras is the conscious use of sound to shape the inner world. Chanting sacred syllables, tones whose frequencies correspond to specific centers of energy within the body, can realign the subtle anatomy of the soul. These are not random sounds. They are ancient, precise tools designed to awaken dormant faculties and cleanse the spiritual field. Even a simple hum, when done with full awareness and intention, can create waves of healing within the nervous system, calming the mind and expanding consciousness. Equally transformative is the practice of intentional silence. In a world addicted to noise, silence is a revolutionary act. It is in silence that we allow the disturbed waters of the mind to settle, revealing the reflection of higher realities. True silence is not the absence of sound, but the presence of deep listening, a receptive state where the soul can hear the subtle melodies that the chaos of modern life drowns out. Creating sacred spaces of silence within each day, even for a few minutes, can gradually reawaken the sensitivity needed to perceive the deeper vibrational fields. Geometry, too, offers a powerful gateway into awakening. meditating on the simple perfection of a circle, the steady balance of a square, or the infinite spiral of the golden ratio, can restructure the mind itself. These forms carry embedded within them the very logic of the universe, the archetypal patterns from which all physical and spiritual phenomena emerge. By internalizing these patterns, by contemplating their beauty and meaning, one aligns the mind and soul with the primal architecture of reality. Another path to awakening through vibration is the conscious engagement with nature. Pythagoras taught that the natural world is the purest expression of the divine harmonies. The rustling of leaves, the rhythm of ocean waves, the crackle of fire, the silent unfolding of a flower, all are manifestations of the music of the spheres in physical form. To walk in the forest, to sit beside a river, to gaze at the stars, is to immerse oneself in the living vibrations that sustain all life. In nature, the soul remembers its place within the great symphony of existence. Awakening is not an event but a lifelong practice, a gradual tuning of the soul, note by note, gesture by gesture, thought by thought. It requires patience, humility, and above all, love. Love for the mystery, love for the hidden beauty that sings behind the veil of appearances, love for the divine music that calls each of us home. The final and perhaps greatest secret of the forbidden teachings is this: you are already part of the music. You have never been separate from it. Even in your moments of greatest despair, when your life seemed like a dissonant, broken chord, the deeper harmony has continued to embrace you, to carry you, to invite you back into resonance. The work of awakening is not about acquiring something new. It is about remembering what has always been true. Pythagoras' legacy endures not because of formulas carved into stone, but because of the eternal longing within the human soul to return to the source. His teachings survive wherever there are those who refuse to accept the illusion of separation, who seek the hidden order behind the chaos, who yearn to once again hear the music that shaped the stars, the mountains, and the beating of their own heart. You are the instrument. You are the song. And when you tune yourself to the ancient, forbidden harmonies, you do not merely find healing. You become part of the divine orchestra, playing your part in a creation that never ends, vibrating with the timeless frequencies of truth, beauty, and love. The forbidden teachings were never truly forbidden. They have always been waiting, hidden not by force, but by the simple truth that only those who seek them with sincerity, devotion, and courage can find them. And now you are among those who are beginning to remember. The world may try to drown out the ancient song with noise, fear, and distraction, but the melody of truth still plays, within you, around you, beyond you. The teachings of Pythagoras are not just history. They are a call to remember the sacred order woven into the fabric of life. If you quiet your mind, if you open your heart, you will hear it. You are never separate from the music of the cosmos. You are the vibration. You are the harmony. You are the living, breathing expression of a truth too powerful to ever be truly forbidden.